Hi everybody, my name is Jerry Monkman and this is the third in a series of tips from the In the Field section of my new book, The AMC Guide to Outdoor Digital Photography. Today's tip is composition basics and the rule of thirds. Now in the following weeks, I'll be getting into composition in more detail, but today I just wanted to give you a basic understanding of composition and how by simply applying the rule of thirds, you can greatly improve your photograph. Now composition requires you not only to decide what goes in your photo and where your main subject is placed in that photo, but how that subject relates to the rest of the scene. Composition is affected by your physical proximity to the scene, what lens and perspective choices you make, where you focus, and what depth of field you choose. All of these choices affect how your viewer relates to your photo and what parts of the photo command attention. A good composition should tell your story without explanation and express the mood and emotions of the moment. When you are in the outdoors, your senses are taking in the entire scene around you, and your job is to decide what about a place is interesting, exciting, and beautiful, and then make a photo that describes what you are seeing and feeling in a compelling way. This is not an easy task, and it is probably the hardest part of photography to teach. Mastering composition is a lifelong pursuit. It takes years of practice, experimentation, and experience. And a big part of creating successful photographs is using your imagination and listening to your gut, or your heart if you're the romantic type. That said, I'm going to try to teach some composition anyway. By learning today's tips and the tips in the next few weeks, you'll gain a solid foundation that you can use to build upon while improving your photography. Now, the composition of a photo determines its balance. Most beginner photographers opt for a symmetrical balance in their photos by placing the main subject in the center of the frame, or in landscape shots, placing the horizon right in the middle of the picture. This can usually make for pretty boring photos. Now, for centuries, visual artists have been using asymmetrical balance in their art, where the main subject is placed off-center and balanced by other elements of the scene. Perfect symmetry can appear static, while an asymmetrical composition can create tension or a dynamic feel that gives an image more interest. Now, the rule of thirds is simply a technique that forces you to create a photo with asymmetrical balance and hopefully a more dynamic look. Now, imagine a tic-tac-toe grid overlaid in your viewfinder, and place your main subject at one of the intersection points in that tic-tac-toe grid, or if you're shooting a big landscape scene, place your horizon in the bottom third or the top third. The extra space to either side of and above or below the main subject is more visual weight than if the space was evenly divided around a centered subject. In a well-composed photo, this space provides additional interest that complements the main subject. Now, this doesn't work perfectly with all photos, but when you're having trouble with a composition, thinking about the rule of thirds forces you to change focal length or reposition the camera, moving higher, lower, or from one side of a subject to another. These changes in the camera's position can dramatically change the look of the image, eventually leading to a photo that captures the inherent drama of the scene. Okay, so that's this week's tip. Get out there and try it, practice it, and get the rule of thirds down, because you're going to want to use it in conjunction with the tips coming in the next few weeks. For more tips and to learn about my book, The AMC Guide to Outdoor Digital Photography, visit monkmanphoto.com.